Welcome, welcome. Please find your seats. The house lights are about to dim. Tonight, we have an absolutely spectacular performance for you. We are pulling back the curtain on a story that spans galaxies and, honestly, dives deep into the very nature of creation itself. The overture is just about to begin.
So the show opens on a completely dark stage. Then, a single, powerful voice just cuts through the silence, setting this incredibly grand cosmic tone from the very first line. It's a really bold choice, and let me tell you, it absolutely pays off.
And here it is, our playbill for the evening. You're about to witness a spectacle in 3 acts, a story of science, of discovery, and of those unseen pressures that shape our entire world. Okay, so the curtain rises and the whole stage is just bathed in this deep crimson light. We're on a desolate red planet, and you can see these colossal, almost breathing silkworm domes. Inside one of them, though, the set is a stark contrast. It's this drab, gray, utilitarian city bristling with tall, sharp buildings. The set design is just brilliant at capturing this world of organic survival versus sterile control.
Now the scene focuses on a crowded mess hall. The stage is just filled with students, a sea of identical tan-green overalls. You can feel this buzz of anticipation in the air. And then, suddenly, a voice crackles over a loudspeaker, a message from their ever-present overlookers, the Federation. And just like that, our story begins.
And so begins Act 1. This is where we get to meet our cast of characters. A fantastic ensemble of young students who are right on the verge of a discovery that's going to completely alter their reality. The inciting incident? Well, it's a new, mandatory assignment from the Federation, one where their creativity isn't just encouraged, it's demanded.
First to enter is Jackal Boom Thud. You can see his eagerness in every single step he takes. He's always the first one to rush to the information screens, just a bundle of pure, unadulterated curiosity.
Following right behind him is Tara Henslow. She has this incredible stage presence, tall, athletic, a student of history and rebellion. You could just feel her simmering opposition to the Federation's rigid control in her every glance.
Then we have Jax Timeworth, the prodigy, a brilliant engineer who is clearly destined for the top of the Federation, and he carries himself with this quiet confidence of someone who knows exactly what they're worth.
Paprika Blooming is next, and she's a truly fascinating character. She's the quiet achiever, mastering all these different disciplines in the shadows. But her real passion is writing, a secret that really hints at this rich inner world hidden from everyone's view.
And finally, there's Derek Woodbeast, Jackal's best friend. Their bond is so palpable on stage. He's the confidant, the other half of their duo, sharing secrets and memories of growing up together in their cluttered city.
Now, the central monologue of Act 1 is delivered by Professor Gardner. He steps forward and passionately explains this thing called sonoluminescence. He calls it fusion in a jar, describing this tiny, beautiful blue ball of energy just popping into existence. A process, he says, as beautiful and as fragile as Earth itself. It's just a breathtaking moment of pure scientific poetry.
Okay, Act 2 begins, and the energy in the theater is absolutely electric. The director promised us special effects, and believe me, they do not disappoint. This is where wonder and impossibility really take center stage.
Imagine the stage. Now it's dominated by this strange collection of props. There's a circle of 12 glass vases, fragments of shimmering crystal, and these long coils of brass metal. A low hum starts to build, a tone of 3.96 gigahertz filling the space. The lighting pulses, creating what feels like a vacuum of sound and light. The tension is just incredible.
And then, the payoff, a truly stunning visual effect. Right there at the center of all the brass and glass, a dark purple sphere of energy just materializes. It's stable, it's glowing, and it is undeniably a portal to somewhere else. A hush just falls over the entire theater.
The staging here is just brilliant. The students start testing the portal, and the results are delightful. Corn kernels go in, popcorn comes out. A steak gets cooked to perfection. But the moment a leg of ham goes in and a live piglet comes out, oh man, the entire theater just erupts in this mix of laughter and complete shock. It's a masterful turn from the mundane to the miraculous.
This scene leaves us with the central question of Act 2. Is this portal just some kind of cosmic kitchen appliance? Or is it something far more profound, a dimension where things are transformed into their truest, most ideal form?
This so brilliantly illustrates the philosophical heart of the story.
But every miracle has its price, right? As we move into Act 3, the lighting shifts. It gets darker, more unsettling. The tone changes dramatically. The wonder of discovery starts to curdle, and it's replaced by this creeping psychological dread. We're about to see the hidden cost of this miracle.
The first sign of trouble comes from Derek, and the staging for his nightmare sequence is terrifying. Projections of these surreal monsters flicker across the stage. We're talking humanoid figures with goat-like legs and heads that twist impossibly, covered in a million rolling eyes. It's just pure sanity-shredding horror.
In stark contrast, Tar's dreams are depicted with this haunting beauty. We see visuals of enormous space whales just gliding through star fields, and their passage alters the very shape of galaxies. It's majestic, but it's also vast and unsettling, hinting at forces far beyond human comprehension.
And now the curtain is finally pulled back on the world these students inhabit. Under the Federation, there is no rest. Downtime is a crime. Failure to be productive is punished with hard labor, digging in mines or serving the whims of the overlookers. You realize their creativity isn't a passion, it's a desperate obligation. And then, the director delivers the final, chilling blow. A line is projected in stark white text across the entire stage. Failure isn't just punished with labor, it's punished with death. The stakes are raised to their absolute limit. You can literally feel the air leave the room.
So, as the play reaches its conclusion and the actors take their final bows, the audience is left to grapple with its profound themes. This wasn't just some science fiction story, it was a powerful commentary.
The show's final critique is really a mirror held up to our own world. It masterfully argues that when creativity is forced, when it's something you have to perform under duress, it dies. Passion becomes a chore, a resentment, and eventually just a memory of something you once loved.
And as the lights fade to black, the show leaves us with this one final, haunting question projected on the curtain. It doesn't offer an easy answer. It simply asks us to consider the consequences, to think about what we might be losing. A truly thought-provoking and unforgettable end to a brilliant production.
So I want you to imagine looking up at the sky, right? But instead of clouds or the sun, you just see this thick, shimmering canopy of white silk.
Yeah, just completely boxing you in.
Exactly. A canopy that stretches over the entire city. You're completely trapped. And this is the reality of the year 2227 in Ryan Dillon Brassington's wildly imaginative narrative, The Star in a Jar Experiment.
It's such a striking image.
It really is. And we are going on a deep dive today into a story that, well, blends theoretical physics, some intense dystopian world building, and, as we'll see later, a really poignant critique of our own modern society.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the way the author takes a real 1980s physics experiment and turns it into, like, a gateway for time travel and pig creating portals, it's just mind-blowing.
Yeah, and that visual of the silk canopy you mentioned is it's such a powerful place to start because it really defines everything about how humanity survives and honestly suffers in this specific future.
Right.
The year is 2227, and society operates under the absolute authority of something called the Federation of the United World. Sounds very ominous.
Oh, extremely. And to understand the wild quantum physics experiments these characters eventually conduct, I mean, you first have to really grasp the sheer claustrophobia of their daily lives.
Right, right. So paint a picture of this environment for us. If the sky is, literally made of silk, what is actually producing all that material?
Well, it's biological. The domes are spun by genetically modified Bombyx mori, which are silkworms.
Giant silkworms.
Yeah, giant. We're not talking about the tiny little caterpillars on a leaf. These are engineered far beyond that. They are city-sized organisms genetically locked into a permanent larva stage.
Wow.
Yeah, and they serve as these massive living protective shields right over the cities, sealing humanity inside to keep out the toxic wastelands of the outside world.
That is a stunning and honestly terrifying visual. I mean, just a city-sized caterpillar looming over skyscrapers.
It's pure nightmare fuel if you think too hard about it.
Seriously.
Yeah.
But how does an ecosystem like that even sustain itself? Like, what do they eat?
It's this really grim loop of biology, actually. The worms feed on the city's excrement.
Oh, gross.
Yeah, very efficient, but gross. And they also eat specially cultivated white mulberry and osage orange trees that line the urban streets.
Okay, so it's a closed loop.
Exactly. In exchange for this constant food supply, their biological netting just encases the entire city. It preserves human life, sure, but it also physically and psychologically traps absolutely everyone inside.
I mean, it sounds like humanity has regressed into being this tiny dependent organism living inside a literal recycled insect cocoon. Everyone is just like a moth waiting to be told what to do.
What's fascinating here is the historical irony. It's just brilliant.
How so?
Well, think about real-world silkworms, right? Historically, they have been so heavily modified by human selective breeding over centuries that they are entirely domesticated.
No, right. They can't survive in the wild.
Exactly. They can't even fly anymore. They rely entirely on humans to survive. But Brassington flips that dynamic completely in 2007. Now, humanity relies entirely on the silkworm to survive the toxic wastelands.
Wow. We became the dependent.
Right. The Federation has engineered safety, but in doing so, they've completely domesticated the human race.
And I imagine that domestication, it bleeds into the culture, too. If you are living in a giant insect cocoon, there probably isn't much room for individual expression.
None at all. I mean, the society is completely void of color.
Just totally bleak.
Yeah, the result of millennia of selective breeding and this strict authoritarian control has rendered everything in these muted grays, tans, and greens.
Very utilitarian.
Very. The story follows a group of university students, Jackal, Derek, Tara, Jax, and Paprika, and even in a university setting, which is traditionally a place of, vibrant self-expression.
Oh, yeah. Colleges are usually bursting with energy.
Right, but here, they all wear identical tan-green overalls. The only unique identifier they possess is a tiny name patch.
That sounds so suffocating. So if you have a society mathematically engineered to be predictable, visually monotonous, and entirely controlled by this federation, how does a rebellion spark? Like, how does anything happen?
Well, you assign brilliant, desperate students an experiment involving pure, volatile energy.
Ah, okay. And this is where the story shifts gears, right?
Yeah.
It goes from dystopian world building into some incredibly hard science fiction.
Oh, yeah. Hard sci-fi.
So we are at Diverse University 002361.
Catchy name.
Right, very catchy. And Professor Brian Gardner gives these students an assignment based on an actual real-world scientific phenomenon.
Sonoluminescence.
Sonoluminescence. Okay, break that down for us.
It's a real effect discovered back in the 1930s, heavily studied later in the 20th century. The assignment requires the students to recreate this phenomenon, but the text describes the mechanics with this beautiful, terrifying intensity.
Okay.
They start with just a simple jar of sterile water. Then they introduce pulsating sound vibrations, specifically tuned to a frequency of 3.96 gigahertz.
Which is extremely high.
Unbelievably high. And they direct that acoustic energy right into the center of the liquid.
I know the term translates roughly to sound light.
Yeah.
But how does blasting sound into water create a light source? Like, what is actually happening inside that jar?
It all comes down to a process called acoustic cavitation.
Cavitation, okay.
Right. Sound is essentially a pressure wave. When you blast water with sound at that extreme frequency, the low-pressure part of the sound wave literally tears the water molecules apart.
Wow.
It creates this tiny vacuum bubble. And then the high-pressure part of the wave slams that bubble shut.
So the bubble collapses in on itself.
Violently. The collapse is so rapid and intense that the gas inside the bubble heats up to astronomical temperatures.
Like, how hot?
We're talking hotter than the surface of the sun.
In a jar.
In a jar. For a fraction of a second, the collapse creates a brilliant, tiny blue light. Professor Gardner literally calls it fusion in a jar. It's pure energy just blinking into existence.
Hang on, wait, let me just pause here and play devil's advocate. If I'm running a hyper-controlling dystopian federation where everyone wears gray and individuality is erased, why on earth am I letting teenagers build miniature suns in a dorm room?
It's a fair question.
I mean, isn't that a massive risk to their control? Why allow them to play with literal stellar fusion?
It definitely seems counterintuitive. But the Federation system actually demands continuous innovation.
Oh, I see.
They don't want technological stagnation. They want to evolve and maintain absolute dominance over their environment. But, and this is the catch, they demand innovation strictly on their own terms.
Right, controlled innovation.
Exactly. And to control this, they use a networked think tank system.
Okay, tell us about the think tank, because this seems to be the engine driving the students' desperation in the story.
The think tank is basically a room walled entirely with data-synced whiteboards. Every single experiment, every shred of data recorded by anyone in the Federation is instantly collected and shared across this global index.
Okay, which means the system strictly forbids repeating past experiments.
That's the trap. If you repeat an experiment that someone else has already logged, it's classified as fraud.
Oh, wow. So you can't just do a standard lab report.
No. The students are forced into a terrifying corner. They have to recreate the star in a jar to pass the class, but they cannot do it the way it's been done before.
They have to innovate.
Yes. They have to push the boundaries of physics just to avoid the Federation's punishments.
And the punishments mentioned in the text are brutal. I mean, if they fail, they face 48 hours of hard labor digging for something called yucca in the Weston mines.
Yeah, yucca is described as this incredibly dense, hazardous ore.
Just mining it sounds awful.
It is. Digging for it is essentially a death sentence by exhaustion or toxic exposure. And if they refuse the mines, they face instant subjection to irradiation.
So they literally have a gun to their heads. Innovate, warp the laws of reality, or get sent to the toxic mines.
Exactly.
This immense pressure pushes the students out of the classroom and into what the text calls the desperation rooms.
Right. These are the environments where they try to execute these impossible variations of the experiment. And we see a few different approaches from the group.
What are they trying?
Well, Tara, for instance, focuses on the astronomical elements of the fusion. She theorizes about collapsing stars spewing gold space dust across the universe.
Okay.
Her experiment attempts to use that microscopic fusion reaction to instantaneously metamorphose earthly elements into pure gold, basically drawing it from the blinding white light of a dying star.
That is ambitious.
Very. Then you have Jax and Paprika, who take an entirely different, almost psychological approach.
Yeah, they build the white room, right?
They do. They remove the water entirely and play the 3.96 gigahertz frequency into a purely white, disorienting sensory deprivation space. Their goal is to map cosmic galaxies against human neural pathways, basically trying to pierce the fifth dimension.
I mean, that is wild.
Yeah.
But the real narrative breakthrough, the experiment that completely shatters the boundaries of their reality, happens with Jackal and Derek in Experiment Room 2.
Yes. This is where the author really flexes his imaginative muscles and blends acoustic physics with just wild science fiction.
Their setup is so elaborate, they don't just use one jar of water, like the baseline experiment. They construct a 10-meter brass frame.
Huge.
Yeah. And inside this frame, they arrange 12 slim-necked glass vases, all filled with sterile water. But the crucial ingredient they add to the mix is crystal quartz.
The quartz is the key to breaking the experiment wide open.
Because quartz has piezoelectric properties, right?
Right. In the real world, this means if you apply mechanical stress to quartz, it generates an electrical charge, and conversely, an electrical charge causes it to vibrate.
It's how quartz watches keep time.
Exactly. But Jackal and Derek weaponize that property.
Oh, I love that phrasing. How do they weaponize it?
Well, when they pump in that 3.96 gigahertz sound wave, the quartz doesn't just sit there. It absorbs the mechanical stress of the acoustic wave and translates it into an electromagnetic charge, which then vibrates back into the water.
It amplifies it.
Yes. And because the 12 vases are arranged in a specific circular pattern, the sound vibrates in endless compounding repetitions.
The momentum of the vibration actually speeds up and overtakes the speakers.
Yeah.
I remember reading the text describes how even if you unplugged the audio equipment, the sound would just keep vibrating endlessly through the crystals, feeding itself.
It creates an uninterrupted chain of continuous pure energy. The acoustic resonance loops perfectly, reaching a state of mathematical perfection.
Wow.
It becomes a tone that speaks the foundational language of the universe itself. And because the energy is perfectly looped and stabilized by the quartz, the visual result is no longer a tiny, flashing blue spark that disappears in a microsecond.
Right. It doesn't just blink out.
Yeah.
It becomes a dense, dark purple sphere of glowing energy, suspended right in the center of the brass frame. They accidentally build a completely stable portal.
And because they are panicked, exhausted college students operating under immense sleep deprivation and fear,
Which is such a real mood.
their immediate scientific methodology is basically to just start poking it.
Yes. They grab a metal mesh cage, attach it to a pole, and just start dipping random items from their dorm into this dark purple void.
As one does.
Right. And this is where the story gets hilariously bizarre, but it also introduces its core philosophical question. So they dip raw corn kernels into the energy sphere, pull the cage out, and find hot, freshly cooked, sweet popcorn.
Which naturally leads them to wonder if they've just invented the universe's most complicated microwave oven.
Right, like, great, we passed physics and made a snack.
But then the tests get stranger.
Much stranger.
They lower a slice of an apple into the void. It doesn't come back baked. The energy interacts with the biological potential of the apple seed.
Wait for it.
It returns as a fully grown, beautiful, living bonsai apple tree.
It's an evolutionary fast-forward button.
Yes.
The energy isn't just heating things up, it's accelerating biological destinies.
Yeah.
And the absolute climax of this sequence is when they raid the cafeteria, grab a raw leg of ham, and lower it into the void.
Oh, this part.
They hold the ham hock in the purple light for a few seconds, pull the mesh cage back up, and sitting inside is a living, breathing piglet.
They resurrected a pig from a piece of processed meat.
And they literally name her Tiny Betty. It's such an absurd, laugh-out-loud moment, but the philosophical implications underneath it are staggering.
They really are. The students eventually dubbed this portal the realm of what it is meant to be.
What it is meant to be.
Yes. The acoustic energy removes the barrier of time and reveals the ultimate evolutionary or philosophical destiny of whatever enters it.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right. The corn's destiny, once exposed to heat and pressure, was to pop. The apple seed's biological imperative was to grow into a tree. The biological code inside the ham hock dictated that it was meant to be a living animal.
Which immediately forces the reader to ask a really terrifying follow-up question. If this is what happens to food and plants, what is the ultimate outcome of a human being?
Exactly. What are we meant to be?
Yeah. If Jackal or Derek loses their balance and steps into that purple void, what comes out? Do they become beings of pure energy? Do they revert to stardust? Do they become ash?
It injects a looming existential dread into the narrative. You cannot warp the fabric of the universe, piercing the veil of time and destiny without it reflecting back on your own mind.
Absolutely.
And this is especially true for characters whose waking lives are entirely void of true creative freedom or self-determination. The subconscious toll of this environment is immense.
And we see this play out in their sleep. I mean, the nights in the university dorms are anything but restful.
Oh, they're terrifying.
Even the physical sleeping arrangements are bizarre. They sleep stacked in these hollowed-out spaces within a twisted brass cylinder. But what happens when they actually manage to close their eyes is truly disturbing.
Yeah. Derek, trying to biohack his way into passing the assignment, starts sleeping completely upside down.
Like a bat.
It's like a bat. He hopes the increased blood flow to his brain will boost his cognitive function and creativity. But instead, it just opens the floodgates to graphic, visceral night terrors.
What does he see?
He dreams of these entities. They're shaped like men but walk on hooves like goats.
Creepy.
And their heads twist in impossible, bone-snapping motions, looking back at him with a million continuously rolling eyes. Plus, they have ears patterned like crop circles.
The imagery is horrifying. Just a million twisting eyes staring at you. Feels like a manifestation of the think tank itself, right? Like the constant, unblinking surveillance of the Federation watching their every move.
I think that's a perfect reading of it. And then Tara's dreams are less horrific but equally overwhelming in their scale.
The space whales.
The space whales. She dreams of humongous, ancient space whales gliding through the cosmos. These massive creatures sweep aside stars and planets with their tails, leaving entirely reshaped galaxies in their wake.
I love that visual. It's so expansive. But then there is Paprika, the quiet, diligent achiever of the group. Her nightmares aren't cosmic or monstrous at all.
No, they are pure, relentless anxiety loops.
Yes.
She dreams of repeating mundane events from her childhood over and over, where success was the absolute only acceptable outcome. Her heart rate stays consistently elevated all night because she knows that failure in her waking life leads to endless repetition, or the Yaka mines, or irradiation.
When you look at these dreams collectively, you really see the psychological mechanics of oppression at work.
You really do.
The Federation forces them into this sterile, gray, productivity-obsessed box during the day. They dictate every action and outlaw unapproved innovation. But the dreamscape is the one frontier the Federation cannot monitor.
It's the only space unbound by the data-synced whiteboards.
So human consciousness finds way to expand violently in the dark.
Precisely. If you suppress the human soul's intrinsic need to create in the waking world, that pressure has to release somewhere.
It's going to blow a gasket.
Exactly. Even if the mind has to conjure million-eyed goat men and cosmic space whales to exercise its imagination, it will do it. The mind cannot be entirely caged.
This tension between infinite cosmic potential and the suppression of the human soul builds to a really unexpected turn in the source material. The story introduces a concept that kind of bridges the gap between the physics of the portal and the philosophy of human memory.
Yes, the narrative presents this poetic, almost metaphysical concept of water memory.
I found this part so beautiful.
It's stunning. It suggests that time travel isn't a mechanical process. You don't build a metal spaceship or a flux capacitor to traverse time. Instead, the theory posits that the rain that falls carries the literal memories of the world within its molecular structure.
The text has this beautiful image describing the echo of an exploding raindrop. As it splatters, it spreads the memories it holds upon everything it touches.
It's so lyrical.
It really is.
Yeah.
And if you think about water as a continuous, unbroken cycle, evaporating, condensing, raining down, it acts like a planetary hard drive.
I like to think of it almost like a vinyl record.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Just as a needle reads the microscopic physical grooves of a record to replay a complex symphony of sound, the mind in this universe can theoretically read the vibrational grooves left in water droplets.
Right.
The author describes the act of time travel as learning to shelter the mind, creating a mental raft to float upon these seas of faded memories.
But just as we're settling into this beautiful, poetic sci-fi concept, Ryan Dillon Brassington, the author, abruptly breaks the fourth wall.
He really does.
The text completely shifts focus. It stops being a story about Jackal, Derek, in the year 2227 and turns into a direct, pointed critique of our present day.
He draws a very hard parallel between the citizens of the Federation and us.
Yeah, you the listener, me, all of us.
Exactly. We may not have an authoritarian government threatening us with uranium mines if we fail a physics test, but we are in many ways willingly constructing our own silken domes.
He paints a picture of us, huddled in our homes, remaining in our shelters, with stale, pale faces, illuminated only by the glow of our screens.
That's a harsh mirror.
It is. He argues that we are voluntarily trapping ourselves in endless routines of scrolling useless information, swiping through endless streams of 15-second videos.
And the author specifically targets the tragedy of the modern creator here. He maps out how the pure instinct for creativity is currently being commodified.
It's so true.
Someone starts with a genuine hobby, something they do purely for the joy of creation, but then the culture pressures them to turn that passion into content.
Right, you should monetize that.
Exactly. And the moment it becomes content, the psychological shift happens. Your attention is drawn away from the physical act of painting or building or writing and redirected toward consistently checking your uploads.
Your emotional state becomes outsourced to an algorithm.
Yes.
It becomes entirely dictated by metrics, by likes, comments, and view counts. A focus on genuine creation turns into a performance. It becomes forced, and eventually it just feels false.
And because it's pushed and pulled by an algorithm that you can't control, the initial enjoyment sours into resentment. You try to share a piece of your soul, you find out the internet doesn't care or didn't serve it to the right feed.
Which happens all the time.
Right. And that open exposure turns into a chore. The passion fades, the motivation passes, and eventually, just to pass the time, you stop creating altogether and join the ranks of the scrollers, consuming useless information until your own instinct for creativity is completely dormant.
It is a deeply philosophical argument about the surrender of human potential. The question he poses is profound. What happens when an entire society loses the motivation for independent creativity?
It's a scary thought.
He views the swiping and the scrolling not just as a waste of time, but as an active suppression of our evolutionary energy. He envisions a flow of life where we move together, creating a community for the sake of human connection, not for financial gain or the hollow approval of social media clout.
Movement creates energy, and sitting still in the glow of a screen creates stagnation.
The parallel to the silkworm cocoon is brilliant when you frame it that way. The worms spinning their domes over the cities in 2227 represent the comfortable, endless, algorithmic feeds we wrap around ourselves today.
The feed keeps us safe from boredom. It numbs our anxiety. but it traps us in a permanent larval stage.
Oh, larval stage. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, we are fed just enough stimulus to survive, but we are insulated from the friction and challenge required to actually evolve, to grow, or to fly.
The star in a jar experiment manages to take a wild premise. Giant silkworms, fusion portals made of brass and quartz, and resurrected pigs.
Let's not forget Tiny Betty.
Right, Tiny Betty. It uses all of that to hold up a mirror to our own habits. It's a reminder to protect our creativity and our memories from the systems designed to commodify them.
It challenges the reader to look at the systems they operate within and ask, are we innovating and creating for the sake of true human growth? Or are we just performing to gain meaningless approval from a digital think tank?
Which leaves us with a lingering question to ponder long after this audio stops. If water truly holds memory, acting as a planetary record of our vibrations, what memories of our daily lives are we encoding into the rain right now? Are they memories of genuine creation, of passionate hobbies, and vibrant human connection? Or are the clouds just gathering the invisible, forgotten echoes of us, sitting perfectly still in our self-made silken domes, staring at screens, scrolling endlessly through the void?